Why did the road feel wrong before she even saw the SUV? That question hovered in the back of her mind as Commander Sarah Blackwood eased the battered Toyota along the narrow Afghan pass, dust curling behind her like a ghost refusing to let go. She told herself it was just the heat, just the silence, just the way solitude always played tricks on memory. But deep down, she knew better. Her instincts had survived 29 years of deployments, betrayals, firefights, and the kind of nights where breathing too loudly could get an entire team killed. Instincts didn't lie. People did. She touched the corner of her sunglasses, adjusting them as if that would settle the unease stirring in her chest. The mountain stared back with an indifference that felt almost personal. Maybe that was the part that bothered her most, the emptiness. No trucks, no herders, no distant motorcycles buzzing through the valley. Not even birds. Nothing moved except her. And nothing moving meant something was waiting. She forced herself to breathe. Calm in, calm out. She wasn't here as Commander Sarah Blackwood, the woman who'd survived tribunals, Black Book missions, and more lost than she'd ever confessed out loud. Here, she was a humanitarian aid worker planning a medical outpost. Someone harmless, someone forgettable, someone no trained hunter should have any reason to notice, much less follow. But someone was. The rearview mirror caught the first hint of it, a black SUV rounding the bend far too fast for this terrain, kicking up a sharp plume of dust. Her fingers tightened on the steering wheel. Too clean, too new, wrong tires, wrong tempo, wrong everything. She whispered almost to herself, "Not today." The SUV closed the distance with the confidence of men who thought they owned whatever they touched. She kept her speed, kept her breathing steady, kept the mask of mild confusion she'd perfected over years of undercover work. Just an aid worker, just passing through, just someone who didn't want trouble. But the trouble wanted her. The SUV flashed its lights aggressively, a demand, not a request. She glanced at the horizon, mapping the familiar terrain. To the east, the wadi, dry, rocky, narrow, ideal for slipping away if she had seconds to spare. To the west, the ridge, good for high ground if she were armed, which she technically was. Not in a way anyone else could see. The first impact jolted the Toyota forward so hard her teeth clicked together. She fought the skid, one hand steadying the wheel, the other drifting instinctively toward her concealed Sig Sauer beneath the seat. A second impact followed, harder, deliberate, almost gleeful in its precision. They knew what they were doing. And so did she. She let the Toyota fishtail slightly, pretending to lose control, her expression slack with the fear a civilian might feel. But inside, her mind shifted into a cold, sharp focus she hadn't let herself access for months. That old version of her, the one she pretended she had left behind, snapped awake. As the car screeched to a grinding halt, she caught sight of the men climbing out of the SUV. 3 of them. Boots military issue, manner professional, posture aggressive. Their eyes moved the same way the SEALs she'd once taught moved, scanning angles, checking wind, triangulating threats. Not locals, not Taliban, not amateurs. This was organized. Her heart beat once hard, not fear, anger, a familiar, quiet kind. The kind she learned to swallow years ago because anger got people killed. The kind she only let surface when she knew she needed it. She raised her hands slowly, careful not to seem too prepared. The leader approached first, tall, solid, smirk carved into his face like he had waited years to wear it. His weapon stayed trained on her chest, but it was the voice that stopped her breath. "Out of the vehicle," he ordered, American accent smooth, mocking, too familiar. She stepped out, dust swirling around her boots. The sun hammered down on the back of her neck, but she hardly felt it. She was too busy sorting through memories, fragments of faces, the ghosts of old missions. Then she saw him clearly. Marcus Reeves. Dishonorably discharged, violent, unpredictable, a man she had once testified against for killing civilians during Operation Kingfisher, a man who had vowed revenge in a whisper dripping with venom, a whisper she hadn't forgotten. He grabbed her arm roughly, expecting her to flinch, to break, to shrink. She did none of those things. Instead, she looked at him, really looked, and the years fell away. The tribunal chamber, the fury in his eyes, the way Lieutenant Susan Cuddy had stood beside her, unwavering despite the threats. The quiet promise Sarah made to herself back then: never let men like him rewrite the truth. Reeves studied her face with a dawning recognition that flickered from amusement to disbelief to something darker. "Well," he breathed out, "I'll be damned." She offered nothing. Silence was its own weapon. His two men moved with the confidence of soldiers who had forgotten fear. One carried an M4 he clearly didn't know well enough. The other checked perimeter angles too quickly. Trained men, but not disciplined. Not like the teams she had served with. Not like the warriors who understood the difference between power and purpose. "Hands behind your back," Reeves ordered, pressing a pistol into her ribs. She complied, lowering her gaze slightly. Let him think he was winning. Let him think he was in control. Let him think she was vulnerable. Those thoughts would keep him sloppy. The scarred mercenary rifled through her credentials. "Sir, nothing. Just humanitarian crap." Reeves grabbed her hair, yanking her head back. She didn't give him the satisfaction of a wince. Then his eyes widened. "Commander Blackwood." The air thickened. Even the mountains seemed to hold their breath. She kept her silence, kept her breathing slow, kept her posture small, the kind of quiet that made predators careless. "You don't remember me," he hissed. "Oh," she said softly, "I remember." The blow came fast, the butt of his pistol cracking against her temple. Pain flared white, but she rolled with it, letting herself drop to one knee, positioning herself a few inches closer to the knife taped against her ankle. She tasted blood on her lip, familiar, metallic, grounding. The scarred mercenary spoke first. "Sir, we weren't told it would be her." Client sniper, hidden contractors, satellite phone, reinforcements on the way. Pieces slid into place with chilling clarity. This wasn't random. Someone had betrayed her location. The realization tightened something deep in her chest, not fear, but a sinking, quiet disappointment that hurt worse than any punch. Someone inside her circle, someone she trusted, someone with access. She swallowed it down. Later, she'd mourn later. For now, she would survive. Reeves leaned closer, breath hot against her ear. "You're outnumbered, outgunned. Even Murphy couldn't." He never finished, because in that moment, Sarah made the choice she always made when cornered. She chose to fight. Her hand shot upward, seizing his wrist, twisting sharply, the crack splitting the silence. His scream tore across the valley. The pistol fell, and for the first time since the road turned quiet, she felt something unexpected. Relief. Because the truth was simple. She wasn't afraid of men like Reeves. She was tired of them. And this time, she wasn't the one who would be underestimated. She rose quiet, steady, unbroken. The part of her she had tried to bury, the soldier, the operative, the predator, stepped out of hiding. And for the first time that day, she felt like herself again. Who fired the first shot on the ridge? And why did it sound like a warning rather than a kill shot? The question flickered through Sarah's mind as dust sprayed from the ground inches from her knee. Whoever the sniper was, they had a clean angle. They could have taken her head off. They didn't. Not yet. That hesitation, that was deliberate. And deliberate always meant dangerous. Reeves groaned beside her, clutching his broken wrist, still too enraged to register the implications. The two remaining mercenaries scrambled for cover, shouting into radios, their panic staining the air like static. But Sarah wasn't watching them, she was watching the ridge, watching the glint of metal vanish and reappear, like someone taunting her from a shadow. She felt the old familiar sensation rise, the one between instinct and memory, between danger and déjà vu. It was like her past had climbed that ridge and taken aim. She crouched lower, her knees brushing the gravel, her fingers tightening around her knife. Her breath slowed, steady, every sense widening until she could hear the tremor in Reeves' breathing, the hurried shuffle of boots, the faint echo of a radio transmission she couldn't quite catch. Why weren't they shooting to kill? Why this dance? Reeves spat blood onto the dirt. "He's not missing," he muttered through clenched teeth. "He's corralling you." Her jaw tightened. She hated that it made sense. Corralling. Herding her toward a choice she didn't want to see yet. Reeves leaned against the Toyota, sweating, pale, furious. "Should have killed you years ago," he hissed. "But you never did know when to stay in your lane, did you, Commander?" She didn't give him the dignity of a response, because responding made things personal, and she couldn't afford personal. Not here. Not when her pulse was already betraying a tremor she didn't want to acknowledge. It wasn't fear. It was the old ghost of something she thought she'd buried at the tribunal. The memory of a young man she'd once believed could be redeemed. The man Reeves used to be before Kingfisher broke him, or revealed him. But he wasn't the one she was thinking about. The sniper. The deliberate misses. The rhythm of the shots, controlled, purposeful, almost surgical. She knew that pattern, but she refused to let her mind speak the name. Not yet. A second round zipped past, shaving the edge of the Toyota's frame. Another warning, another gesture of control. The scarred mercenary pointed upward, panicked. "He's moving, he's repositioning." "No," Sarah murmured, more to herself than to them. "He's waiting." Waiting for what? Her answer arrived in the form of a dust cloud on the far horizon, small, then growing, then unmistakably deliberate. More vehicles, reinforcements. Whoever orchestrated this had planned every second. Reeves laughed, a low, broken sound that echoed like something feral. "They didn't tell us it was you," he said, "but the client will pay triple for you alive, and your intel quadruple." She finally looked at him, really looked. "What client, Reeves?" He smiled, not with triumph, but with something colder. "The kind of people even you can't shoot your way out of." Her stomach tightened. Not fear, calculation. She had never feared men like Reeves, but the men who hired him. Those were the ones she'd spent her career fighting without ever seeing their faces. She forced herself to breathe. Again, slow, controlled, because panic was a luxury and doubt was a threat. Still, beneath her calm, a quieter question tugged at her. Why was she being targeted now? What had she uncovered that warranted this? And who inside her own chain of command had pointed them to her exact location? She shoved the thought aside, one crisis at a time. A shadow shifted on the ridge. There, a silhouette against the sun. She held her breath, not because she feared the sniper, but because recognition hurt. Years ago, during a mission that didn't exist, she had trained with a marksman who never missed unless he meant to. A man who followed orders like scripture. A man who vanished off the grid after a mission that went dark, and whose name had resurfaced in too many classified whispers lately. But it couldn't be him. Could it? Her chest tightened too suddenly, too painfully. She hated herself for feeling anything at all. Feelings blurred judgment. Feelings made hesitation deadly. And hesitation was something she couldn't afford. The ridge flashed again, sunlight glinting off a barrel. Decision made. She grabbed Reeves by the collar and dragged him in front of her again, using him as a shield. He howled, cursing her through clenched teeth. "Call him off," she demanded. He laughed again, a jagged, fractured sound. "You think I give orders. You think this is my op." A bullet struck the dirt beside her foot, close enough to sting her ankle with flying grit. Not a miss. A message. She whispered, "Then who the hell is calling the shots?" Reeves didn't answer. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't care. Maybe he'd already accepted that he was just another pawn, a disposable one. The scarred mercenary fired blindly toward the ridge, shouting, "We're compromised. We need backup now." The radio crackled in response, a whisper of coded static. Not a language. Not words. A signal. She exhaled slowly. They're jamming communication. The taller mercenary swore under his breath. Then how the hell is he getting instructions? Sarah lowered her gaze to the satellite phone clipped to the man's vest. She didn't say the answer out loud. Reeves saw her look and smirked. "You're a smart woman, Commander. Shame you never learned when to quit." He shifted, pain twisting his face. "The client wants you alive, but me," he leaned closer despite the knife near his throat, "I want you broken." She didn't blink. "You already tried that." The moment stretched, a fragile, dangerous pause before she made her move. Smoke exploded around them, the grenade billowing white against the sun, swallowing sound, swallowing shape, swallowing her hesitation. She moved through it like shadow. Low, fast, controlled. Her body remembered every lesson, every drill, every night spent crawling through sand under live rounds. Pain faded. Fear dissolved. Training took over. She cleared the Toyota, rolled behind a ridge, scaled the rocks despite the burn in her ribs. The sniper fired again, adjusting too slowly. She wasn't running from the shot. She was running toward it. Toward the ghost on the ridge. Toward the truth she didn't want to face. 15 minutes of silent pursuit led her along narrow ledges and jagged stone. Her boots slid once, twice, but she pushed harder, letting adrenaline sharpen her breath. Then she reached the crest, and the shape waiting for her. The sniper lay prone. Motionless. Dead. A single wound through the temple. Still warm. Still recent. Her pulse hammered softly, painfully. Someone else had killed him. Someone faster than her. Someone who didn't want her answers yet. She felt it then, a shift in the air, a pressure behind her ribs like someone watching from a distance. She turned toward the valley. The mercenaries were regrouping, frantic, searching for her. But she wasn't thinking about them. She was thinking about the sniper. She knelt beside the body, her fingers brushing the rifle stock. Her breath caught. A carved mark on the grip. A symbol she hadn't seen in years. A symbol belonging to a man who should have been dead. She whispered into the wind, voice cracking just slightly. "Why?" There was no answer. Only the silent mountains. Only the echo of betrayal. Only the realization that whoever wanted her dead also wanted her alive long enough to suffer. And long enough to learn a truth she wasn't ready for. Why did the valley fall so quiet after the sniper's body cooled? That silence felt heavier than the firefight, heavier than the betrayal, heavier than the truth she wasn't ready to name. Sarah crouched beside the corpse, one hand on the rifle stock, the carved symbol still burning into her palm like a brand she'd sworn she would never see again. She hadn't said the name. Not out loud. Not even in her thoughts. Because naming it made it real. And real meant everything she'd feared, everything she'd buried, was clawing its way back into her life. A gust of dry wind swept across the ridge, tugging at her shirt, carrying the metallic scent of blood and gun oil down into the valley where Reeves' men searched frantically. Their voices echoed faintly, distorted by canyon walls, but she ignored them. She was listening for something else. Footsteps, breathing, movement. Whoever killed the sniper had done it fast, clean, invisible. Not Reeves' men. Not locals. Not amateurs. Someone good. Someone trained. Someone who had followed her here, or someone who had been one step ahead of her the whole time. She rose slowly, her muscles stiff, the gash on her temple throbbing with a cold, rhythmic ache. Her fingers brushed the carved insignia again, a small falcon etched into the wooden stock. A mark belonging to a covert unit, that didn't officially exist. A mark worn by a man she once trusted. A man she once loved in the quiet, unspoken way soldiers love those who survive the same impossible fire. A man who died in a blast 12 years ago. Except he hadn't. She closed her eyes. Not now. Not here. Not yet. The past was a luxury, survival wasn't. She turned sharply, instinct flaring, and dropped behind a rock as gravel shifted above her. A figure moved along the ridge's higher line, fast and shadow-silent. Too fast for Reeves' men, too fluid, too intentional. Her pulse flickered, half fear, half recognition she didn't want. "Show yourself," she breathed, though she knew he wouldn't. Not yet. The figure vanished behind a jagged outcrop, leaving only the faintest trace of movement in the dust. She exhaled through pursed lips. He was alive. And he was watching her. But why? And why kill the sniper she was hunting, unless the sniper was never meant to kill her in the first place? A low rumble rolled across the valley, the reinforcements, 2 SUVs, same type, same dark tint, same arrogance in their engine growl. Time was thinning like frayed rope. She was exposed on the ridge. She needed elevation, shade, distance. She scanned the horizon, an old, eroded path cut between boulders, leading toward a narrow cliff shelf. Perfect. She jogged low, her lungs pulling dust, her boots slipping on loose stone. A dull burn spread across her ribs from Reeves' earlier strike, but she pushed it down, locked it away. Pain didn't matter. Pain could be dealt with later. Down the path, she found a crevice that split into 2 directions, one toward a high vantage point, the other toward a steep descent leading to the valley floor. She froze. Footprints. Fresh. A single set leading downward. The tread pattern was identical to the sniper's boots, but the stride was different. Longer, heavier, familiar. She turned toward the descent, and the wind carried a whisper of gravel displaced by careful steps. Someone was close, very close. Her hand slid toward her knife. But before her fingers wrapped around the grip, a sharp crack echoed from below. A gunshot. Then another. Shouts. Chaos. Reeves' men had found something, or someone. She crept forward, positioning herself between 2 rocks jutting like broken teeth. The valley below unfolded in a violent scatter of movement. Mercenaries ducked behind vehicles, firing at shadows, shouting orders she couldn't decipher. But the hair on the back of her neck lifted. They weren't shooting at her. They were shooting at someone else. A lone figure sprinted from a cluster of boulders, darting through cover with a fluidity that was almost inhuman. She squinted, heart hammering. Black tactical gear, compact build, movements like a ghost that had learned to run. For one insane heartbeat, she thought it was him. But the silhouette was wrong, the gait was off, the timing didn't match. No, whoever this was, they were trained by the same unit. Her unit. Her stomach dropped. The mercenaries unloaded entire magazines, bullets sparking off stone. The lone operative dove behind cover, then rolled into a ditch. A grenade bounced down the slope. Sarah didn't think. She reacted. She stood, lifted the sniper's rifle, scoped fast, exhaled slow. The grenade arc traced death toward the operative. She fired. The shot cracked across the valley, striking the grenade midair. It detonated prematurely, a burst of light and dust exploding harmlessly above the ditch. Below, every head snapped upward. Reeves' men cursed, scrambling for angles. One raised a radio shouting, "Sniper! Ridgeline north face!" She dropped before the return fire started. Bullets pinged off rocks, chipping stone into her hair. She slid backward, breath sharp, dust choking her lungs. But something felt wrong. The lone operative wasn't running toward her. They were running away, abandoning the field entirely. Why? Why expose themselves? Why draw fire? Why lead the mercenaries away from her? Unless, unless their purpose wasn't to kill anyone. It was to buy her time. Her pulse thudded unevenly. Someone out there was protecting her. Someone who knew her. Someone who knew how she thought. Someone who knew she'd take the ridge instead of hiding. Someone who knew she'd aim for the grenade first. Her breath caught. No. Impossible. Unless the dead sniper wasn't the man she feared it was. Unless the carved symbol wasn't his. Unless someone was using that symbol to pull her deeper. To bait her. To break her focus. That realization hit like a punch. Someone wanted her emotionally compromised. Someone wanted her unsteady. Someone wanted her chasing ghosts instead of enemies. And for the first time since the ambush began, a shiver of genuine fear traced her spine. Not fear of dying, but fear of the truth unfolding around her like a trap she should have seen coming. She crawled along the ridge, keeping low until the mercenaries' gunfire faded, their engines roaring to pursue the lone operative. For a moment, the valley fell quiet again. Too quiet. She exhaled softly, pressing her back against the stone. A tremor ran through her fingers. She flexed them to make it stop. She had been hunted before, betrayed before, targeted before. But this felt different. This felt intimate. This felt orchestrated by someone who knew every weakness she tried to hide. Someone who had studied her for years. Someone patient enough to pull her into the center of a storm without firing a kill shot. Someone who wanted her alive. But shaken. Because a shaken soldier made mistakes. She tightened her grip on the rifle. "I don't break," she whispered to the silent mountains. But even as she said it, another voice echoed in her memory, not hers. A man's voice. Soft, quiet, dangerous. "Everyone breaks, Sarah. It's only a matter of what you do when the pieces hit the floor." She swallowed hard. The voice she thought died 12 years ago. She rose slowly, eyes narrowing at the horizon where the dust trails from the SUVs faded into the distance. If he was alive, if he truly was part of this, then everything she believed about his death, everything she'd built her life on since, was a lie. And the people hunting her were only the first phase. She adjusted the rifle on her shoulder, the carved symbol burning against her palm. Whatever this was, whoever orchestrated it, it wasn't about killing her. It was about drawing her in. And she was already deeper than she realized. What if the real trap wasn't the ambush, the sniper, or the mercenaries chasing shadows, but the silence that followed afterward? Sarah felt it instantly, the moment the last SUV disappeared beyond the ravine, a stillness so sharp it cut through her pulse. No echo of engines, no boots on gravel, no wind threading through the rocks. Even the dust seemed suspended midair, waiting for something she couldn't see. She stood on the ridge longer than she needed to, the sniper rifle slung over her shoulder, the weight of it too familiar and too unwelcome. The carved falcon burned against her palm with every shift of the stock. She could have dropped it, left it there for the desert to reclaim. But she didn't. She couldn't. Because part of her needed answers, answers she had spent 12 years refusing to look for. She started moving, not down toward the valley where Reeves' men had scattered, but along the ridge, angling north toward an old service trail she remembered from a mission that had never made it into official logs. Her boots crunched softly on the gravel. Every step seemed louder than the last. Her breath grew shallow. Not from exertion. From memory. The last time she walked this ridge, she wasn't alone. She pushed the thought away. She had survived too long by staying in the present. The past was a luxury, a trap, a wound with teeth. Yet as she reached the crest of a limestone shelf, a shadow parted the silence. A shape. A figure, a man, standing exactly where one should not be. Her heart seized painfully, traitorously, before her training slammed down like iron. She didn't think. She dropped, rolled, took cover behind a boulder, knife in hand, pulse a hammer inside her skull. Shadows moved against the sunlight's edge. One step, another, controlled, intentional, slow enough to signal confidence, fast enough to close distance. Her voice was low, steady, dangerous. Show your hands. Silence answered her. A breath, a shift of weight, a scrape of gravel. Then, I wondered how long it would take you to spot me. The voice wasn't a ghost's voice. It wasn't the voice from her nightmares. The voice she feared would one day speak her name in the dark. This voice was younger, sharper, colder. Not him, but close. She rose halfway from cover, knife ready, body angled, eyes narrowed. The man stepped into view. Late 30s, maybe early 40s. Lean, tactical clothes dusted with sand, a small scar cutting through his left eyebrow. His hands weren't raised, but they weren't threatening either. Something in her chest eased, something else tightened. She knew the face. "Cooper," she said. He didn't smile. "Commander." The last time she saw Agent Nathan Cooper, he was dragging her out of a blown-out safe house in Helmand Province, half-conscious, half-deaf, bleeding from the ribs, refusing to leave without the intel she'd gone in to retrieve. He was CIA then, or said he was. With Cooper, there were layers beneath every introduction. "Why are you here?" she demanded. He nodded toward the valley. "Same reason you are." She stayed silent. He added, "They weren't after the intel. They weren't after your cover either. They wanted you slowed down." Her jaw clenched. By sending Reeves, by staging a kill team. No, Cooper stepped closer. By sending him. The carved falcon suddenly felt like it was burning through the wood. She swallowed, her throat felt thick. "He's dead." Cooper's expression didn't flicker. "I'm not talking about him." "Then who?" Before she could ask, Cooper tossed something onto the ground between them. A small, dented metal object. A bullet casing. She picked it up, turned it between her fingers. .308, custom load, polymer capped, military grade. Not Reeves' team. Not the sniper's rifle. Someone else had fired this from the ridge across the valley, a shot she hadn't heard. "Missed you on purpose," Cooper said quietly. Her fingers tightened. Why would someone do that? Cooper finally met her eyes. "Because he wanted you to live long enough to come to him." A cold line slid down her spine. "Who?" she whispered. Cooper didn't answer. Instead, he handed her a small black folder, waterproof, dustproof, coded with a 6-letter cipher she hadn't seen since her breath caught. The Falcon program. Her pulse hammered. "This was buried," she said, voice barely audible. "Shut down, disavowed. Everyone involved was." "Dead," Cooper finished for her. "Is that what you were told?" She didn't answer. He gestured toward the valley. "Reeves wasn't hired to kill you. They were hired to flush you out, to confirm one thing." "What?" "That you were still willing to run toward the gunfire." Her stomach twisted. Who wanted that confirmation? Cooper hesitated. And that hesitation told her everything. She stepped closer, her voice low, raw. "Tell me who I'm dealing with." Cooper exhaled slowly. "Someone who believes you left something unfinished. Someone who believes you owe him." Her pulse froze. No. He couldn't be alive. He couldn't be the one behind this. He died. She saw the reports. She saw the satellite images. "Stop," she whispered. "You haven't heard the name yet," Cooper replied softly. She didn't need to. Her silence was answer enough. Cooper lowered his voice. "He's been off-grid for 12 years, not dead, not missing, hidden, protected, waiting." Her eyes burned. She didn't know if it was fury or something far more dangerous. "Why now?" she asked. "Why come after me?" Cooper looked over the ridge, scanning the horizon as if expecting movement. "He's building something, and he wants you on one side of it, a pause, or the other." Her chest tightened painfully. "What does he want?" Cooper's eyes darkened. "Your loyalty." She stepped back. "I don't owe that man anything." Cooper stared at her with something like pity. "You don't owe him, but he thinks you do." Silence stretched, jagged, brittle, suffocating. Then a low rumble rolled across the valley. Not engines. Helicopter rotors. U.S. or someone pretending to be U.S. Cooper stiffened. "We're out of time." He pressed a small tracker into her palm. "If you want answers, if you want the truth, follow this signal. Tonight, alone." She stared at him, at the widening shadows. "What if I do?" she asked. Cooper's voice was quiet, almost regretful. "Then he'll come to you instead." She opened her mouth to speak, but Cooper stepped back, dust rising around his boots. In 3 seconds he was gone into the rocks, silent, ghost-like, leaving her with the tracker, the rifle, and a truth she didn't want to face. The rotor blades grew louder. She had minutes, maybe less. She tightened her grip on the tracker. Follow the signal, or wait for the past to find her. The wind picked up, carrying the first hint of approaching soldiers. Someone wanted her retrieved. Someone else wanted her warned. And somewhere out in the desert, a man she once trusted was waiting for her to make a choice. Sarah exhaled slowly and stepped away from the ridge. Because if the past was coming for her, she would meet it on her terms. What if the worst part wasn't that someone from her past wanted her back, but that a part of her, the part she hated most, wanted answers too? Sarah moved through the narrowing canyon with the tracker clenched in her fist, the screen glowing faint pulses of blue. Each blink tugged her deeper into the mountains, farther from the planned extraction point, farther from safety, farther from who she was supposed to be. Night was bleeding slowly across the sky, streaking the desert in gold, then amber, then bruised violet. Shadows lengthened. Crickets hid. The heat drained from the rocks like something dying. She should have turned back. Report in, debrief, file intelligence. That was the soldier's answer. But the woman, the one she never allowed herself to be, wanted to understand why a ghost was writing new lines into her life. Her boots hit sand, then stone, then sand again. The canyon floor twisted like a broken spine. Every few minutes the tracker blinked, urging her forward. Her mind raced too fast and too slow at the same time. 12 years ago she'd held a helmet in her hands and stared at a crater where a man had vanished. The Falcon program imploded the same night. Bodies misidentified, DNA unrecoverable, files sealed, names redacted. She told herself he died cleanly, instantly. She tried to believe it. But the truth was, she never believed it enough. She swallowed the burn in her throat and kept walking. The mountains tightened into a narrow throat of rock. She placed her palm against the canyon wall, feeling for vibrations. Nothing. Too quiet. She whispered under her breath, "What am I walking into?" A voice answered from the dark. "Something you should have walked into years ago." Her knife was out before the words finished. She pivoted left, then right, breath sharp and fast, eyes cutting through the gloom. Nothing. Only darkness swallowing itself. Her pulse thudded in her ears. Was she imagining it? Was stress playing tricks? Was. A stone shifted behind her. She spun again. Still nothing. But she felt it now, the sense of being observed. Not hunted. Observed. Studied the way predators watch each other before deciding whether to strike or walk away. She took a slow breath, lifted her knife higher. "Show yourself," she said. The darkness breathed. Then a shape peeled away from the canyon wall, resolving into a tall figure dressed in matte black, No insignia, no shine, no giveaways. He stopped 15 feet from her, neither moving nor raising his hands. Her heart smashed into her ribs. The silhouette. Too familiar. Too wrong. Too right. She forced steel into her voice. Take off the mask. The figure tilted his head slightly, not mocking, not threatening, almost curious. Her pulse skipped painfully. Then he obeyed. Slowly, deliberately, he reached up and peeled off the black half-mask covering the lower half of his face. Sand shifted under her boots. The mountains breathed. Time stuttered. Her breath stopped. It was him. Older, harder, a scar slicing across his jaw where there hadn't been one. Hair shorter, eyes darker, but undeniably. Elias, she whispered. Her voice cracked on the name she had forbidden herself to say for more than a decade. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He simply looked at her, really looked, as if cataloging the woman she'd become, as if comparing her to the ghost he'd carried in his own memories. Sarah felt her knees weaken. Not from love. Not from fear. From betrayal. A deep, old, unhealed betrayal. You died, she said. The words scraped her throat raw. I saw the reports. I saw the blast radius. No, he said softly. His voice was rougher now, scarred by time. You read what they needed you to read. Her hands trembled around the knife. She tightened her grip to steady it. Why didn't you come back? Why didn't you tell me you were alive? He didn't flinch. I wasn't supposed to. Anger surged hot behind her ribs. You let me believe you died. I had to. No, her voice sharpened. You chose to. His jaw clenched, a small twitch of muscle she remembered too well. I chose to keep you alive. She stepped back, shaking her head. Don't you dare put that on me. Sarah. You vanished, she snapped. You left us. You left the team. You left me in the middle of a war zone with half the world burning, and you let me believe. Her voice broke. She swallowed hard. You let me grieve something that wasn't real. He absorbed the words like blows, but he didn't deny them. My death was the only way to dismantle what Falcon had become, he said quietly. The only way to destroy the men trying to turn us into something we were never meant to be. And now, she asked, bitterness cutting each syllable, why reveal yourself now? His eyes flickered with something she couldn't name, because they rebuilt it. A cold line slid down her spine. She swallowed. Falcon is gone. No, he stepped closer. The part you saw was gone, the part buried deeper survived, funded, hidden, waiting. She felt dizzy, and Reeves, the ambush, the sniper. All meant to slow you down, Elias said. Give me time to reach you first. Why? Something tightened in his expression. Regret, maybe grief. To warn you. Warn me about what? He took a slow breath. Someone inside your chain of command is in the rebuilt Falcon. Someone with power. Someone who knew you were too dangerous to leave unchecked. Her heart hammered. Dangerous how? Elias stepped closer, close enough that she could see the small scar near his temple she didn't recognize. Because, he said softly, you're the only person alive who can expose them. Silence expanded between them. She felt her breath shake. If you wanted to warn me, then why the games, why the shots, why the symbols, why make me think? His voice softened. Because I needed to know who you'd trust more, your instincts or your memory of me. She shook her head slowly. You had no right. I know. Then why do it? He held her gaze with something old and painful. Because the people coming after you won't hesitate. And because if you trust the wrong person, you won't survive the next 24 hours. She stared at him, fury, grief, confusion, relief, everything tangled so tight she couldn't breathe. Finally, she found her voice. What do you want from me, Elias? He stepped close enough that she could feel the heat of his breath. I want you alive, he said. And I need your help. Her throat tightened. With what? Elias leaned in, eyes dark with something she hadn't seen in him before. To dismantle Falcon, he whispered. Again. What if the hardest battles weren't fought with weapons, but with the truth you spent your whole life trying not to face? Sarah stood frozen in the canyon's half-dark, Elias' words settling over her like ash. The mountains seemed to close in around them, shifting from silent witnesses to silent judges. The man she'd mourned, buried in her memory, honored in the quiet corners of her heart alive, standing 10 feet away, breathing the same dust, asking her to help dismantle the very program that had destroyed them both. Her voice came out low, unsteady. You disappeared. You let me bury a ghost and spend 12 years chasing shadows because of it. She took a step back. Now you expect me to trust you. Elias didn't move, didn't soften, didn't apologize. The man she remembered had edges. This one had become a blade. I don't expect trust, he said. I expect decisions. Her grip on her knife tightened. Is that what this is? Another mission, another assignment, another. No, he cut in quietly. This is survival, yours and mine. A bitter laugh escaped her. You made your choice when you let Falcon fake your death. And you made yours when you testified against Reeves, he replied. Both choices had consequences. This is one of them. His calm ignited something inside her, something sharp, something bruised. Don't you dare compare the two. I'm not comparing. Elias' voice dropped to a steady, gravel-edged tone. I'm telling you the truth. You think your testimony only ruined Reeves. No, it ruined the people behind him. The ones who needed the Falcon program operating in the shadows. The ones who trained us. The tracker in her palm blinked slowly. Blue. 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 A heartbeat, a countdown, a warning. She forced her breath steady. So that's what this is. Falcon wants you back and they want me out of the way. Elias' eyes hardened. Number Falcon wants you back, and they want anyone who knows who you truly are gone. Her stomach dropped. He stepped closer. You weren't supposed to survive Kingfisher. You weren't supposed to survive the tribunal. You weren't supposed to make it through the last 7 years of black operations. His jaw clenched. But you did, every single time. Because I fought, she said, her voice sharp. No, he corrected softly, because someone protected you. It hit her like a silent explosion. He didn't mean Reeves. He didn't mean Cooper. He didn't mean her commanders. He meant himself. Her throat tightened. You watched me. I watched over you, he said, no hesitation. Not always, not everywhere, but when it mattered. It should have made her furious. It should have felt like betrayal, like manipulation, like something unforgivable. But beneath the anger was a heavier truth. Somewhere deep down, a part of her had always felt watched, not in a haunted way, in a protected way, a way she'd ignored because anything else would have broken her. She shook her head sharply, pushing the emotion down where it belonged, buried. You should have stayed dead. His expression didn't falter. I know. A gust of cold wind swept between them, scattering sand and fragments of old leaves. Something about the canyon felt tighter now, more dangerous. Sarah sheathed her knife slowly, a deliberate act, not surrender, readiness. Tell me what Falcon wants, she said. Elias watched her carefully. Access. To what? To you. Her pulse skipped. Why me? He exhaled, a long, tired breath that seemed pulled from a deeper well than the desert around them. You're the only operator who ever broke their conditioning. She froze. No, she said quietly, I was Falcon. You were part of the testing phase, Elias said. You were trained using their doctrine, their psychology, their methodology, without being told the origin. She felt her chest tighten. I didn't know. I know. And you didn't tell me. His eyes softened, barely. If I had, they would have killed you. Her voice trembled despite her control. And you think they won't now? They will. He stepped closer, his voice lowering. Unless you come with me. To what? She shot back. Run, hide, burn the world down because the past finally caught up to you. He didn't flinch. To expose them, he said. To stop them before they trigger the operation they've been preparing for 12 years. The tracker pulsed faster. Blue. 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 A warning. A signal. An approach. She looked down at it. They're coming. Elias nodded once. Not Reeves' men. Then who? Your extraction team. A pause. And one of them isn't who they claim to be. Her breath hitched. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the strain behind his eyes, the grief etched into his features. The man she lost and the man he became fused together painfully. You can't let them take you, he said. You won't make it to the helicopter. She fought the urge to step back. And you expect me to trust you, after everything? His answer was simple. No, I expect you to trust yourself. He held her gaze. Sarah, you knew something was wrong the second that road went quiet. You felt the SUV before you saw it. You sensed the sniper before the first shot. You felt watched even when you didn't want to believe it. His voice softened, an echo of the man she once knew. You've always known when you're being hunted. Her pulse thudded. And are you? She whispered. He didn't blink. Yes. She exhaled shakily. Why me? Why now? He answered slowly, like each word weighed something. Because Falcon doesn't want to kill you. He stepped closer, close enough that she felt the heat of him, the truth of him. They want to activate you. A cold, nauseating wave rippled through her. Activate. Her knees nearly buckled, the world blurred at the edges. No. 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 She shoved the thought away. I'm not theirs, I never was. You were never theirs, Elias said. But they believe you can be. The tracker vibrated violently in her hand. Not a blink now. A warning. A countdown. Elias' voice dropped to a razor's whisper. You need to choose, come with me or let them take you. She looked at the canyon mouth, where faint lights flickered. Her extraction. Her team. Her country. And one traitor among them. She looked at Elias, the ghost she buried, the man she once trusted, the man telling her she'd been a target for 12 years. Her chest ached, her hands shook, her heart fought her training. You left me, she whispered. His expression finally cracked, pain slipping through. And I've regretted it every day since. The ground trembled with incoming boots. Elias extended his hand. Sarah, he said softly, if Falcon gets you back, they won't let you go again. She stared at his hand. At the man. At the canyon. At her past. At her future. At the shadow of herself she didn't want resurrected. The lights grew brighter. Voices echoed. Her time evaporated. Sarah inhaled slowly. Then she made her choice.